Hello, everybody, and welcome to our AMEC webinar focusing on rising stars to industry leaders. This is going to be a lively panel chat today by three young professionals of the year. I'm delighted to be joined by three people who have won the award in the past. We're going to talk about their careers, the challenges, the highlights, their contribution to the industry. This is really designed to meet three objectives. And the first one is really about hearing about their career paths. I know that many young people in the industry are focused on learning and development. They want to know how to get ahead. They want to take the next step in our industry. So learning from these three people today is I hope, a valuable step for them. We want people to be inspired at a time where our industry is going through immense change with AI transformation. We're requiring a lot of our young people, cross-skilling, upskilling. Many of our companies within the AMEC community are restructuring and have a new focus. So hopefully this provides you with some inspiration to really make the most out of those changes in the industry. We also want audience members to understand the importance and the impact of AMEC awards on individuals and on companies. I must say, looking at our three panel members today and the contribution they've made since they've won, I would have to say that the AMEC judges have got it right. They are able to predict talent very, very well. So thank you for joining. I'm going to now move to introduce our panel members. I'm joined by obviously three industry leaders, their careers, their contribution to the business, their paths, incredibly inspiring for those that have been in the industry for a long time, but also those just joining. Firstly, I'd like to welcome Ngaire Crawford. Hi, Nai. Good evening. Lovely to have you today. Ngaire is Executive Director of AI Strategy and Market Development at Pulsar Group. She won the Young Professional of the Year award at AMEC in 2014. And when you look at her career, it's really been research has always been the cornerstone, but you've stepped up from insights consultant to head of insight to research director, executive director of research, and now obviously executive director of AI strategy. An incredible trajectory. I'm really, really excited to talk to you about that trajectory today. Nai, welcome. Second, we have Tim Zecchin. So Tim is the Managing Director at UNICEPTA. Many of you will know him in that role. He is also an AMEC board member. Tim won the Young Professional of the Year in 2010. He was then a partner at Media Measurement and then moved into an MD role at Marble Global. He's obviously had colleagues colleagues along the way at UNICEF to also win this award. So there's a double reason for Tim being here today. Tim, welcome to the webinar. I'm really delighted to have you, and I can't wait to hear some of your insights.
Thanks, Khali.
Our last panel member was actually, I believe, the first to win the prestigious AMEC Young Professional of the Year award. Is that right, Darryl?
Which is a nice way of saying I'm the oldest person on this call, but yes.
You may not be right there. You may not be right. But look, I'm really delighted to have you. Obviously, it's momentous to have our first winner here. But why I wanted to focus on people that won it in those early years is because we can see a career in the industry over 10 to 15 years. And that's what I want to show young people in the industry today, that there is growth, there is obviously just climbing up, but sometimes it's a cross before you go up. It's almost like a jungle gym in terms of career progression. So Darryl, you've got a really interesting career path. And one of the things I really like about your path is that you are one of the only people I think that has gone from business development side to founding an agency, right? That's quite we don't see many people take that path. So I love that about your contribution. You're the co-founder and MD at Hard Numbers now, but obviously that move came after an incredible career at companies like Precise, on the board of Hotwire, all those things. So welcome today, and thank you for sharing your insights with us as well.
Thank you very much. Thanks for the invite to join.
Excellent. All right, let's start with a fun one. My first question to this panel member is really about the ceremony, right? The AMEC Summit, the AMEC ceremony. We've all been to many of these things. We all look forward to it. The Young Professional of the Year award is presented at the AMEC Awards every year, right? I wanted to start with Ngaire to say, look, what's the most fun or interesting or special moment you've had at an AMEC Summit or at the awards? Thinking back to these years, what fun or what can you share with the audience today?
I mean, I only have very fond memories of AMEC summits and awards. They have this sort of fascinating vibe for me of feeling like you slightly feel like the kid at the grown-ups table, but also feeling like it's the one room that you walk into where you don't have to try and explain what it is that your job is and why you really like it. And I was trying to think of a moment that had stuck with me if I had any great kind of fun, light, silly stories. And the one that I remembered is probably actually more of a bit too much insight into like my psyche. One of the things about me, and Carly may attest to this, is that I can sometimes be a real brat about awards. Um, and I remember really vividly sitting at one of the awards ceremonies and silently, well, I thought it was silently, but just seething because a project that I had up for an award was winning silvers and bronzes and not golds. And our CEO at the time, treasured AMEC member John Kroll, was laughing at me. You might not remember that this interaction took place, but he was laughing at me, and I was trying to just be very, very chill about it because I was a young analyst. I was very, just really anchored on why is this not doing better? Why am I not getting what I want? And then he also looked at me and was like, I love this about you. You're so competitive, and I don't think anybody understands that about you, and that no one would knew that I actually reacted that way. So we may have John Kroll to thank for the fact that I still have just zero chill about relentless standards and also trying to look at achievements and awards like they're a pattern or a problem that can kind of be gamed a bit, because he indulged me way too much in exactly that moment.
I think it was Madrid, if I remember correctly. I think
What
I
was
think
that?
we're in Madrid, and I think that that's at the heart of something, right? That relentless pursuit of high quality, right? And competitiveness. Like we've many of the industry come to the AMEC Awards from an analyst role or leading analysts, uh, and not terribly well known for our competitive nature, but it's true, right? We want the best for our teams, and we want that recognition. Thank you, Nye. Tim, what fun have you had? Please take us, whether it be the dance floor or a really special win. What was your highlight from AMEC Summits or AMEC Awards nights?
I like the fact that you've already suggested that my funniest moment was me on the dance floor, Carly.
Yeah.
But yeah, and apart from that, look, I think funniest moment always goes to the themed outfits. I think at the AMEC summit. So this year was particularly special in Dublin with the green that made an appearance for many of the AMEC board members. But look, in terms of like best Amit moment, I was reflecting on this, and look, it probably is this one, right? Like when you go back and you're forced to kind of reflect on your career over the last sort of 15, 20 years. When I first received that award back in 2010, I was a pretty young person in a kind of fairly niche part of the communications industry. And I certainly didn't think that years later I'd be running a business, sitting on the AMEC board, or on a panel with other winners of the award. So I don't know, there's something very nice and quite cool about this kind of full circle moment.
I love that, Tim. Darryl, funniest, best moment at AMEC ceremonies. What have you got for us? I'm scared,
Uh,
actually. I'm scared about your answer, but go ahead.
no. Well, no, well, I mean, look, kids, don't drink too much alcohol is definitely my like one piece of advice that I could give you from AMEC awards and events over the years. Um, that I was going to say it's probably a bit too worthy. Everyone's been a bit more lighthearted about this, but I feel like in some ways that AMEC, when I won that Young Professional of the Year award, it was kind of like a springboard and a moment of validation for me. I'd spent a lot of my time at Precise and then a lot more of my time at Precise afterwards, standing on stages giving awards to other people. When I was at Precise, we used to sponsor every. If there was an award ceremony, it had the letters P and R in. I was normally in a tuxedo giving someone an award, somewhere around the country, and this was the first and only time that someone gave me an award. In my time when I was at Precise, and yeah, it was a really genuinely great moment of validation for me. I still have the
Oh,
award.
look at that.
It's a real collector's item. I mean, you made the point, Carly, that I'm very old. It's a real collector's item, this one. But yeah, I suppose I hope that I live by Jay-Z's maxim that you treat your last like your first and your first like your last, right? I hope that I celebrate every award that we've won subsequently at the AMEC Awards, of which there've been lots, here, um, with the same gusto and
Yeah.
enthusiasm and joie de vivre that I celebrated my first.
Yeah, that's so cool. And you do see a lot of people, obviously, from the time that you won, still in the industry, still on the edges of their seat on that ceremony, trying to obviously compete. And I think that's a really special thing because that indicates what it actually means. Ngaire, take us back to 2014. How did it go for you? Like you obviously won it in 2014. How did it change anything fundamentally? Was it that validation that Darryl's talking about? What did it mean for you?
I think I'm trying to make all of my stories make me not sound like a maniac. But another fun thing about the zero chill that I was mentioning earlier is that I had actually entered this award category twice. In 2013, I was highly commended, and that's
Yeah.
that's not gold, is it? So, in 2014, I had to go again, and I also really remember that I couldn't attend the awards because I was about like 7 months pregnant with my daughter at the time. So I was actually getting a play-by-play from you, Carly, at the awards. What was going on, and I think I probably viewed it in twofold. I was really proud of myself for the achievement itself because it was this goal that I had set as soon as I knew it was a category. So I was always
Mm.
incredibly curious and potentially a little bit annoying about how was I going to get myself in the position that I would get the nomination from the organization? Like, why would I be the person that was put forward? And so it was always, I guess, a bit of a source of pride that as an organization we often punched above our weight at the awards, and I wanted to be able to also think that a bit about myself and how great it was to have validation that I'm making this sort of valuable contribution to my organization and to the industry as well, and just being able to use that as this trust builder with internal and external stakeholders. It's incredibly valuable to customer and clients as well as within your own organization as a way to reassure people that you are connected to best practice.
Yeah, it's really inspiring. I think that those people that go, if you go again, and you do have knocks, right? There are some years that don't go your way. There are some things in your career that don't go your way, and I think that what you've just said is they talk about leadership, grit, resilience, perseverance, all of that, and it's that in a nutshell. Thank you. That's really amazing to share. Tim, for you, I've got two questions, right? I'm going to wrap them up. For you, you've sort of talked about what it meant for you at the time, and I think that's full circle moments really, really important. Did you have to write your own entry, or did somebody take that awkwardness and ick from you? And could you outsource? How did you actually come to be? It was you, and did you have to actually write about yourself for 1,000 words?
Yeah, I mean, look, when it comes to writing an award entry about yourself, like
Mm,
awkward is definitely the right word. So, um, At the time, my managing director wrote the first draft, and then I then did a rewrite of it, and we went out then to all of the stakeholders in the business and a few clients and got them to input. Because look, most of us are much more comfortable writing about like a client or a colleague or a
Yeah.
campaign.
Yeah.
It's really hard writing about yourself because you either become way too modest, or you sound like you're going to campaign for president. And trying to get that balance is really tough in the YP category. My advice, if somebody's doing this at the moment for this year's awards,
Mm.
it'd be just to go and speak to the people that know your work well, because they will often spot the achievements that you might just dismiss as part of your day job. And that was definitely the case for
Mm.
me. Darryl found his award. I actually found, I don't know whether you can see that because I've still got hair in the photo. I've still got the
Bless.
pamphlet, the booklet, and I read it this morning, and all the things that I were doing at that point, and I completely forgotten about them. And you just take them
Mhm.
for granted sometimes because they're in your day job, and yeah, you can just be too modest about them. So yeah, just go out there and talk to your stakeholders and your colleagues and get them to input.
Yeah, it's good advice. I think that we weren't so kind, Nairi, back at Icentia, right? It was sort of like an initiation that you had to write your own entry back then, anyway.
Horrific. Just
Yeah, yeah,
just very awkward,
yeah,
but I very much encourage people to do it because it is like it's an ick that you need to get past.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. Darryl, did you have to write your own entry? What was
Oh,
your
yeah,
process?
and
And
I don't know what you guys are talking about because basically I was born. I mean, I was born. I've got a medical condition, and I was born without the gland that secretes the enzyme that causes shame. So I don't experience shame at all. So I don't give a monkeys. If you'd have read my entry, it read something like Darryl measurement. Darryl was the man who invented the ruler. I mean, honestly, I went at it. Look, if I gave advice to anyone about anything, right, it's for God's sake that like no one is going to blow your trumpet for you, right?
yeah.
You have to get out there. No one is going to give you anything, right? Um, uh, like Shy Bet, my missus is from the northeast of the UK. She bought me a key ring that said it. It's so important to us both because we're both from very, very humble backgrounds, right? Shy bands get nout, right? Shy babies get nothing, right? You've got
Mm.
to, no one is going to do anything for you. You've got to go out there and do it yourself. Within precise, right? I got the Mickey taken out of me about the fact I wrote my own entry. Keir, who was my MD at the time, called it my like personal vanity award or something, right? I don't give a monkeys. I wanted it. I wanted it for me, and I wrote it myself, and I put it in myself. Don't If I give one piece of advice to anyone who listens to this now or in the future, don't be modest about your achievements because and
Mm.
don't be backwards in coming forwards of reminding both yourself and the world of everything that you've achieved because no one's going to do it for you.
I think we've just identified the co-founder on the panel. That ins it's yeah, very revealing your response, Darryl. But it also there is some truth in that, and I think that if people are watching and saying, look, do I have a young person in my team that is a little bit shy about coming forward for these awards or any type of recognition or approach? I think we need to have a little bit of daily dose of Darryl inspiration there to obviously have some confidence. And I think people in our industry, you're right, we are by nature very modest. Obviously, we're used to dealing with data and we don't overstate things too much. I think we can obviously learn from that approach and learn from that confidence. Obviously, this isn't you've all had obviously very, very strong careers. These aren't the only awards you've won or anything like that. But I wanted to sort of hear from you about what this meant, what industry recognition has meant in your career. You've touched on it a little bit. I'm talking about obviously this award, but also AMEC awards, awards for also that come to your team as well now that you're managing groups and managing businesses. Tim, I'll start from with you. Industry recognition. Darryl's just said that, internally at Precise, it was a little bit of an in-joke. It can sometimes be like that way. It doesn't land well internally sometimes. It might mean a lot to you. Talk us through industry recognition for your career, but also your team?
Yeah, it's a really good point that Darryl raised around like modesty and putting yourself out there. And actually, I think that that is what particularly the Young Professional of the Year award can give people that don't have it naturally. And that was certainly the case for me, and it's been the case for the three in my team that have won it. It gave them the confidence because that external validation told them that they were on the right path, they were doing the right things, and that they were good enough. And I think that that is what awards give us, right? Like it is
Yeah.
that external validation that we are doing the best in our industry, and then it gives people the confidence that might not naturally have it to take that forwards and take it to new clients and into new places. Look, there's always an element of luck with this in terms of like how it helps your career as well. For me, it was the very first time that I met the two venture capitalists that were looking at investing in our business was at
Oh,
the
wow.
awards ceremony on the night that I won Young Professional of the Year. So, they ended up investing in the business and helping us buy that out. So sometimes there is just a bit of luck, and they certainly remembered me after that evening, and that's really helped my career. But you've got to make your own luck. So
Yeah.
putting yourself into those positions where you can have that recognition, it gives you that visibility for sure. But more than that, I think it gives people that validation and confidence to take it forward.
Yeah, it's so important. What frightfully good timing for you, Tim. Exposed to, this is what the AMEC community brings, right? It's career opportunities, it's business opportunities, it's your time to shine. I love that. Ngaire, you've not only obviously won, significant amounts of AMEC awards from projects. You've obviously young professional you yourself. You've worked with other people that have won it, and been highly commended as well. What's the role of industry recognition for your teams, or what has it been?
I think it was a way, from a team perspective, it was a way to embed impact into the thought process of working with a customer and um, making sure that you were building something that felt worthy of an AMEC award or any other form of award, just as a way to kind of have that little lighthouse of like, would this hold up? Could we,
Yeah,
at the end of this, could we confidently say that we did the right thing and we'd get a great endorsement? So it became part of that design process. And I think for me, personally, it does become this trust builder sort of within the team itself. I was obviously, I don't think I was in a leadership position when I won the award, but it enables colleagues to trust your approach and that you know what you're doing, that potentially you might have some great ideas to contribute to a project you wouldn't have been on before. It also really helped that trust building of, I think, moving my mindset and my career from being one that was really focused on research to one that was really focused on communications impact. It's
yeah,
what helped me build, I think, a consulting skill set. It helped me get onto the right stages to build that thought leadership muscle that's important to the work that I do now. And for someone like me who's often not the loudest voice in the room when I'm not on a stage, AMEC would sometimes do that heavy lifting a bit for you. Like even when some of those things are all in your own head, it can be that
yeah.
push to ensure that you back yourself to move into the next thing or onto the next stage or into the next challenge.
Yeah, it's a powerful force. And I think I must encourage everyone, if you've got a project that you're thinking about entering to the AMEC Awards this year, it's worth giving it a go, right? Because as you said, it speaks for you. It can be your voice. It's that sort of recognition from your peers that, yeah, that fits, that you've got to a certain standard. Thanks, Nye. We've got a very young professional on the call. In Darryl's got a very, very young professional. Welcome.
Yeah. Do you want to say hello to everyone, Hudson?
Hello.
Hello, Hudson. Welcome. I want to move now to your careers. And I think there's a lot of people out there that are really wanting, at the point where they're wanting to join a senior leadership team or an executive team. And I want you to give us some advice, go back to when you were knocking on that door, what helps in that step up? So how did you get that step up? And what helps in that process? So if you've just stepped up to an XCOM, or that first time you were MD, I want to go back and unpack that path a little bit, because I know that there's so many people out there, so many analysts, team leaders that really want that path for themselves. So Tim, I'm going to go back to you. We'll go Tim, Darryl, and I for this, but talk us through, Tim, that step to MD, right? Or use any example that you like, but I'm interested in that. What were the steps? What do you think worked to get that recognition for C-suite or senior leadership teams?
The recognition, I mean, part of it is about the visibility that you get, but you only get that visibility if you take risk. And in my mind, people that take the most risks are the people that are curious, right? That they're willing and wanting to try new things. And they are particularly keen to take on the messy problems in an organization, the difficult clients, maybe it's the research project, the pitch that nobody else wants to do. If you take the risk and the responsibility for those things, then you start to become known as the person that helps solve the problem.
Yeah.
If you can solve those problems rather than you're just someone that does their part of the process really, really well, that is what gets you, not just the visibility, but, for me, the respect of senior stakeholders, because that's what they're looking for in those types of roles. Somebody that is going to, somebody's going to be curious, somebody that's going to go out there and, find the new things, somebody that isn't allergic to risk. They are going to be prepared to fail. And the people that want to take on those messy problems. And I think, that's really hard when you're younger, because you really don't want to be seen as the person that's going to fail at something. But,
Exactly.
my word of encouragement and the thing that helped me most was, dive in, take on those really messy problems that nobody else wants.
I love that. Take on the messy problems. Did you think you were ready? Like when you first made that sort of big steps to big titles, did you think you were ready? Were you knocking that door down, or did you have a bit of imposter syndrome? What was your mindset on that, one of those sort of first big jumps?
Yeah, I can remember some of the moments clearly. So I just won YP of the year in the November. And I remember sitting down with the new investors in the following February in a boardroom. And, I had this portfolio of clients and I didn't want to let them go, because I thought if I wasn't serving them, then they were all going to leave. Maybe it's probably a slightly arrogant way of thinking about it. But, it's that idea of having the confidence to delegate to other people. And have that confidence that they might fail, they might fail in representing you. But unless you do that, unless you scale and you start to like really embrace those kind of risks, like you will just stall in your career. And that's what they told me. They told me a couple of things. One, don't be afraid to fail. And then the second piece of advice is one that I always give a new team member when they join the team, is that it is better to ask for forgiveness rather than for permission. So we want people that are just going to go and do, right?
Do it. Yeah.
Make some mistakes. So, we believe in you, get out there and do it.
Yeah, I love that. Darryl, slightly different question for you, because you've had a different path from that traditional path. I wanted to really hone in on your decision-making process of, I'm going to be a founder, I'm going to start my own. I know, from many conversations I have at every AMEC awards ceremony and summit, there are many people that have taken that leap and gone out on their own. There are many people that sit and think about it. I really want to unpack that thought process for you. What was your motivation at the time? Talk us through that step of like, I'm going to do this.
Yeah, no worries. Just quickly, Hudson had a really good piece of advice, didn't you, for anyone out there? What was your good piece of advice for everyone?
Know how to use Excel.
Know how to use Excel. That is really good advice, isn't it? That is really good advice. Yeah, so look, the thought process for going out on to be honest, look, I had my own business when I was 21, which I sold to Precise when I was 26. I would not encourage anyone to run a business when they're 21 years old. It is ruddy hard work and you've got no capital. If you've got like rich parents or something, crack on. Great. If you haven't, it's not. I don't encourage anyone to do it because you haven't got any like experience. You don't know, like it's really, really hard work, right? And the experience of doing that scarred me from wanting to run my own business for years and years. And I enjoyed the comfort that comes from someone else really taking the risk and paying the, and earning a paycheck and earning commission and everything else off the back of it. But ultimately, if you want to if you want to make, life-changing money, not house-changing money or car-changing money, you've got to you've got to have your own thing, or you got to get really lucky and go and work for like Facebook or something in the early days of Facebook, right? So that was the rationale really. It's always been to me. Yeah, you want to hold up one of my awards? Yeah, go on then, hold up one. Do you want that one, the littler one? Yeah, you want to hold that up? Okay. So yeah, my advice to the rationale, the thought process was wanting to build a better life for this little fella and sister, really. Nothing more than that.
I love it. I love it. Ngaire, let's go. I'd love to hear your track. Obviously, you've been around senior leadership teams, all of these things for a very long time. Talk us through those steps and what did you feel ready for those steps? What do you think prepared you the most for those steps? For anyone listening that's wanting to actually make that be noticed and have that sort of endorsement internally in their organizations, what would you advise?
I think one of the things to always think about is why you want to do something. I think I've recently moved from a far more traditional leadership role where I was, the head of a department and into something that is a bit more like as a higher level, but as a smaller, more agile, consultative role, which was a pretty big move for me and took a while to get my head around. But I think there is this funny thing about hierarchy that it feels really logical and it feels like the next steps are sort of assured or assumed. But I feel like if you're looking at it that way, you kind of never get to the point in the hierarchy that you actually want to, and then you'll likely be quite unfulfilled when you get there. So there's usually two things that I'd recommend. What is the role that you want? Why do you want it? What is it that you believe that you could do? And the second part of it that's really significant, particularly from an internal process, is who in your organization is going to recommend that you do it. Would they endorse you particularly? I think influence is a really overlooked element to any senior leadership role because the biggest shift is it's about how you work together to solve like broader business problems collaboratively rather than being a really good leader of a really good team. And it's not until you can demonstrate that switch that you do increase your influence in an organization. That's ultimately the things that will that's what will open up new opportunities, whether they're sideways or diagonal or up, but it'll be that collaboration that does it.
Yeah, collaboration, advocacy, like having internal advocates, external advocates, it all helps along the way. I love the variety of those responses. Thank you so much. I now want to spend a little bit of time on not the completely positive parts of leadership, but also your roles. And this is really talking in all of our roles, in all of our careers, you have knocks, right? You have things that don't go so well. Maybe you fail, maybe you think you failed and you didn't really. I want you to share when things didn't go well, right? I'd love to hear from each of you a bit of a career. It might just be a perceived step back or something that didn't go your way. It's really important that we talk about this because that's life, that's leadership, that's how we pick ourselves up. Obviously, that's the important play. I'll start with you, Tim, again. Can you tell us about a time, obviously since you've won the award, there must have been a time where you went, could have done that better, or something that you wish you'd go back and do a redo. Talk us through that and how it's helped you. Has it helped you? Does it motivate you today?
It's a great question, but it's a tough question.
Yeah.
I think, one of the hardest parts of leadership is where you deal with, a period of significant change. And, realistically, we're all in one right now, and particularly where that impacts people. So, I've gone from helping lead and build, like a relatively small independent business to now operating in a much larger organization, so UNICEPTA is part of Stagwell, big marketing group, turning over 3 billion a
Mm.
year. And that brings amazing opportunity, but, also requires lots of integration, lots of compromise. And with AI, lots of difficult decisions about, structures, roles, and priorities, which can often mean people. So, my big lesson in that has been that every organization, and like, we advise on this, but we also have to practice it. Every organization can always do internal comms better. We all know that. And there have definitely been times when I could have communicated earlier, explained things like maybe more clearly for people, or recognized how, what is a business decision is actually, affecting real people. So look, you can't pretend that you never get anything wrong in this game, but you do have to be prepared to listen as much as you're going to communicate, to try and over communicate and tell people as much as possible. And then, yeah, just try and retain people's trust, because at the end of the day, it's the people around you that make you successful,
Yeah.
not the other way around.
Yeah, it's such a tough lesson, Tim, and it's one that you never feel like you get 100% right. And for those big change pieces, you're often locked in boardrooms with investors, with boards, or with your leadership team, and not with your team directly. So you're not you've sort of pulled from the day to day, and there's obviously a lot of confidential decisions made. It's that balance of what to share, when to share, all of those things. I think that's a really important one for people listening, that you'll never feel like you've got that right, but it is one that you can constantly evolve and work on. Darryl, in your career, obviously you've had, big roles, you're running obviously hard numbers. I wanted to hear from you about a time that it didn't go so well. What can you give us an example of a knock that you've had along the way? What happened, and how did you pick yourself up?
Yeah. Look, success is a function, like how you deal with failure is the primary kind of function of success, right? Like
Yeah.
at hard numbers, we win about 50% of the things, at our best 75%. But if you probably averaged it out across the whole period of time that we run the business,
Mm.
um 50% of what we pitch for, we win, which means the other 50% of the time we lose. Right. Now, if I didn't if it wasn't for those losses as well, we wouldn't learn loads of
Yeah.
stuff. There's a phrase I use a lot, like a loss isn't a loss, it's a lesson, right? And I
Mm-hmm.
learned far more from all the times that we failed than when we won.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so I find it incredibly useful learning experience to not win something. Obviously, like Nye, I'm quite competitive as a person. Crowley would tell you that. I like to win. I like, but
Yeah.
I hate losing more than I like winning, frankly. But yeah, success is a function of how you deal with failure. And
Mm,
again, for anyone early in their career, I would just advise them, knock on as many doors as you can, get told no as often as you can, right? Because it's only through that kind of function of doing that
mm,
you'll get to know what works. I wrote a little
mm.
poem for my boy Hudson, and I've had it illustrated or whatever. And in it, I said to him, "Be so you'll have to be brave before you can be great, and be
Mhm.
prepared for comments, criticism, and hate. But if you set your mind to a course, make sure you see it through. Let no one's negative thoughts get the better of you. It's going to be a little rough, but good sailors aren't made on calm sea. And if
Mm.
the seas ever get too tough, you'll always have a safe port with your mam and me. Success is
Oh,
merely how you deal with how you fail. Any setback is just a challenge, another door to be opened, not a jail. Never be afraid to leave something behind to follow your dreams, and never hesitate to exchange your cow for a handful of magic beans.
John has just put in the chat, why is Darryl trying to make us cry? It's we we aimed to inspire, and if that brings tears, Jonna, that's that's part of the promise that we have. And we've asked for some, you've sold a few of those printed poems as well on the chat, Darryl. So well done. Still selling. I love that. It's really inspiring. Thank you for sharing such a personal poem and outlook. I think sometimes we all need to remind ourselves of that. Beyond the slogans, it's about really picking yourself up. And I love that vision of the calm seas, right? If it's a bit rocky, you're probably developing. Ngaire, to you, obviously, if you look at your career, it looks like there's been no setbacks. It's like just step on, step up, step up, step up. But the reality is that sometimes, your competitive spirit, your want for the best from your teams and of every project, that does sometimes maybe feel like you've perceived to have a knock along the way. Talk us about, I'd love you to share, a scenario where you felt like you had a bit of a knock, and how has it helped you? What's the lessons learned?
Yeah, I don't have a poem about it, which is a shame. Not that I think I could follow that up with any remote poetry that I could write. I think I couldn't. It's not so much that I had. There's an individual um, thing that happened, but I think
Mm,
there's been a series of small things that happened to me, and I sort of woke up one day and realized that maybe I wasn't doing the kind of job that I wanted to do. I don't think I've ever been much of a planner in my career. I sort of have quite a short attention span, but this really boundless interest in problem solving. Um, and I think very much for the first part of my career, promotions and progressions felt very natural. Every few years, I was rewarded with the next big challenge. And then I got to a senior leadership level, and I think I probably stayed there longer than any of my other roles. And the challenge in that became that I was almost too synonymous with the business area that I was leading. So
mm,
it was to the point that I stopped coming up in conversations about anything more generalist. I was the department in a lot of ways.
mm.
It can actually be really tricky to shake. And I had a couple of experiences of role changes that I thought were going to happen, being able to pivot into something else, or changes that would happen and then they would end up sort of going to someone else, or that would change in a different direction. And that became this really, challenging period for me because, as evidenced by that zero chill description that I have of myself, um, those high standards that you set for yourself can be quite crushing when you're not achieving them in the way that you want. So, what I tried to do here was, like all problems, I was trying to figure out how to solve it in the best way that I could. Um, while also not pouring too much energy into something that might not actually be reciprocated while I figured that out.
Yeah.
So I started to rebalance my approach to work back to what are the things that are really interesting to me? How do I apply that to my organization more broadly? How do I get in the room where the bigger problems are being discussed? How do I take on that project that would showcase a slightly different skill set of mine? How do I build my relationship so that other people would vouch for me or advocate for me to be in those rooms? Um, and it is like it's probably a process that's still ongoing. I mean, I'm new to the role that I'm in now, but it was really trying to reorient my focus into what's the next small step I could take outside of my job description. Like, what are the things I could
Yeah.
start to do under my own, steam to be able to move in the direction that I wanted. That was probably the biggest things. When things stop coming your way, it's how do you pivot around and start to move yourself in that direction, even when no one knows that you want to necessarily go in it.
Yeah, and I love that. That's really powerful, especially for people watching this that are, team leaders, head of insights, global head of insights, those sorts of roles. It's not an easy jump to get to outside of that function, as you said, you are the brand of that insights team, and to go to MD or to go to another role is often quite an abstract move. For many boards and to looking at who's who. The other thing that I wanted to pitch in here now is that sometimes the role you have to carve it out yourself. Sometimes there's not a title that exists that you can fit into, but quite often it's something that you forge yourself, and you actually have to write your own position description. Just as you sometimes have to write your own AMEC award entry, sometimes you have to forge your own description if it's not going to be those classic C-suite spots or MD. Thank you. That's really important. When we're talking about skills and obviously showing ourselves, trying to upskill, cross skill, be seen in our organizations and our industry. Tim, I want you to start with you, and this section is really about paying it forward. We have a lot of young analysts, a lot of young people in our industry, that are transitioning into learning AI skills. The classic sort of person that we would look at for those roles has changed, right? It's got much more of a tech focus. I really want to spend some time working on what your advice would be for people that are, a senior analyst or an insight consultant. How do they take them from where they are? So with good writers, love of media, love of data and research, how can they equip themselves for an AI path now? What's the best things that they can do?
Yeah, that's a good question, Carly. So look, yeah, I mean, it's no secret that obviously AI is completely changing the balance of skills that we're looking for. So in the past, we'd look, heavily for people that, could gather the data, process it, analyze it, and look, all of those skills still matter.
Yeah.
That's one thing that we have to really like keep reminding ourselves, and everybody around us. Those skills still really matter, and we can't ignore them. But AI can increasingly support large parts of that production process. So now, the two areas that we're encouraging people to focus on, and also like focusing on when we're recruiting, is firstly people that have the right attitude. So, going back to those ideas of like, pushing yourself to be outside of your comfort zone, pushing yourself to be curious the whole time. And then the people that are going to be our natural consultants of the future are people that can frame the right question.
Yeah.
And that sounds really easy to do. Framing the right question is the most important part of the process because AI and analysts can produce an answer, but it's people that can find out what the right question to ask in the first place. They're the ones that really unwrap the value. And then it's about knowing whether it's the right answer, why it matters, what the action is, what you're going to do with it next, how it creates that outcome. But it's really encouraging people to be able to frame the right question because that's the inherently human part of this. That's the part where we can really add value. So yeah, so I don't know. My answer to your question isn't like, a technical one on the
Yeah.
technical
Yeah.
skills that people need within AI, but actually it's the overarching piece. It's the really human piece where we're really interacting with our clients and stakeholders to get that right question in the first place.
Yeah, and I think that's for us. For many teams, it's people that may have been in the back end of the process. They have probably an opportunity to move to front of house now and play a much more client-facing role. They've got, as you said, the skill sets are still required, so a lot of change. And I think that your themes about solving the messy problems, solving the big problems, asking the right questions, curiosity being the key theme is something that can really set everybody up on the right path. Thank you. Darryl, for you, obviously you're at hard numbers.
Mhm.
AI's obviously having a huge role in playing a huge role in changes in your business. Talk
Mhm.
us through what that means for people if coming in to your team. Like, are you training your teams differently? Are you looking for different skill sets at hard numbers? What does that transformation piece look like for you?
Yeah, uh, it's not as quick as it might seem for the outside. I mean, I think the things that we've done on that front is first off, I mean, years ago, like when ChatGPT came out about 2.5 years ago, we wrote a social media, a AI policy for the business,
Mm.
which we shared with everyone, which basically kind of gave a baseline for what you can and can't or should or shouldn't use AI for. basically, to kind of set guardrails and expectations and all the rest of it. So that was kind of a key foundational principle. And then a lot of our time has been spent since then, as you might guess from looking at what we talk about on LinkedIn a lot, on GEO, generative
Yeah,
engine
yeah, yeah.
optimization, and all the rest of it. Where we're at now is trying to better corral, um, like basically pick tasks, repetitive tasks that we do across the agency, and work out how can we use AI to better do those, and build apps or skills or custom GPTs or whatever, right? Whatever the platform, whatever that is best for it, to basically better streamline, automate, or whatever those tasks. So that basically our team can spend more time thinking and being creative and doing the original kind of input creativity to stuff, and less time repurposing bylines or
Yeah.
like doing the kind of more mechanical stuff that we might need to do as an agency. So that's kind of where we're at. I think we are still at the very foothills of this. And if I'd be really, any young person or anyone at earlier stage in their career who came to us and said, I've been playing around with Claude myself and I have done this skill or created this, to do the, we'd be
Yeah,
all ears
yeah,
for
yeah,
that kind of
yeah,
stuff. So
yeah,
I think there's what this moment creates for people earlier on in their career is an opportunity to grab this thing with both hands, be the person internally that like gets it and understands
yeah,
it and can train other people on it, and look for like repetitive things that they and other people in their team do that AI is well placed to kind of automate, not to automate jobs away, just to automate repetitive,
yeah.
boring, low value work away, so that people can spend more time doing high value, client facing, creative, or other kind of activities, basically.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you. Have you noticed that is there any resistance to that type of change, or is the group at Hard Numbers very much pro just getting on with it, trialing it? I know that some organizations, obviously, some people will be a little bit wary of change and AI transformation and AI coming into the workflow. Have you found that it's universally, having a policy would have helped you, I guess, but have you found that it's been quite an exciting move at Hard Numbers?
Yeah, I mean, look, the key point of difference for us is we don't have timesheets, and no one is under pressure to log time or anything like that. So that removes the disincentive you get for innovation and for coming up with things that make you do things more quickly, that you get with 95% of other agencies out there. Because if you're a account director at insert name of top 150 agency here, your job is basically to fill a timesheet with you, your account manager, and the account execs that report to you, and you have no incentive to do for you or anyone in your team to do anything more quickly than you did it last month, because that's going to lose you revenue. So the key, and again, my epitaph will be more by luck than judgment. This wasn't, but when we started the business, we thought timesheets are a bit of a rubbish way to manage a professional services business. Let's link ourselves more to outcomes and things like that, and that kind of links to Hard Numbers as a thing. So, well, I'm glad we did.
Yeah.
And a lot of professional services businesses, not just PR agencies, but agencies, insert sector here, are wrestling with this problem of, there are huge efficiencies to be gained in terms of time, but what do we do about the model we've got, which is we are selling time to do
Time.
stuff to our clients, right?
Yeah, it's
So
interesting.
yeah, so
Thank you.
long
Yeah,
answer to your question. Sorry, minimal pushback because we're
good.
not structured in that way.
That's important, right? That's something that we can all look at, creating that space to be curious and test and try. That's really important. Nari, on to you. Obviously, huge changes within the world of, insights and research. And your new role obviously is very much, geared to AI strategy. Talk us through what you're changing now in terms of the skills, the people, recruitment, training. I'd love to hear really how that's coming along.
I think the skills are very similar to what's been said around curiosity and creativity. I think one of the challenges when dealing in AI related roles or AI related strategies is that there can be a lot of like really fear-based assessment of what AI can do and its impact on workflows, and you get a lot of conversations about human in the loop and human judgment, but a lot of that is quite broad spectrum, and people are actually still often putting the human in the wrong place.
Yes.
So you don't necessarily create much more than more tools for yourself, but I feel like what is really needed and the talent that you try and identify is that people that can look at the environment and see opportunity rather than challenge, which is often the internal change that a lot of people are trying to go through. And it's that innovative mindset is how we're all going to rebuild and reform something that's better rather than just doing the same thing that we were doing before more efficiently. And it is that if you can reward creativity over perfection, and in some cases over technical expertise, that's really important. At the moment, I'd rather someone has a run at something and it's 60% of the way there and they've built it themselves and they've had a great idea and they gave it a go, rather than someone who might be technically perfect and can write a perfect product spec, but they'll never take a run at trying to build it themselves. And that's a part of trying to make sure that you're setting up the right culture as well, and sharing massive failures and incubating ideas slightly less and bringing things into a collaborative point rather than having high levels of like individual product ownership and things like that. But it is very much it's a much more attitudinal shift that you need to find now, so that it is that creative, curious, looking for opportunity and what can feel like a really overwhelming and incredibly kind of complex and nuanced space.
Yeah, it's that same thing, right? If you've all said it, just do it, right? Go out there and do it. If don't wait for permission, be brave, solve the messy problems. At least the technology now gives us some type of infrastructure or mechanism to actually bring our ideas to we can create dashboards in a second. We can actually visualize and take those ideas from a piece of paper to something that we can demonstrate in the business at record pace. I think that's a big asset for young people in businesses now. We're wrapping up. We're nearly at the end of the hour, but I do want to sneak in a quick prediction from you all about biggest trends of the industry. And I'm doing this because I want to replay it in 5 years and see who is right and wrong. No, I'm not. I just want to hear where your mind is, where what you're focused on right now, what the next year will bring to your roles or to your businesses or to the industry. It can be as broad as you like or as specific as you like, but I'd love to wrap up with just a prediction on where we're going with the industry. I'm going to ban any mention of GEO because we know that one. We've documented that. Go beyond that. Tim, can I pop you on the spotlight to really just give us, what's the future? What's the next year look like in measurement and evaluation?
Yeah, look, so obviously one that we've all had quite a lot of time to think about. So AI is clearly the immediate trend. But the deeper change that's really happening because of that is that traditional production work is becoming increasingly commoditized. So, I mean, clients don't want another dashboard showing them what happened last month. They want us to be able to tell them what's changing, why it's mattering, but most importantly, what is going to happen next. And so I think that predictive analytics is going to take center stage over the course of the next couple of years. And actually, the insight work that we're creating for clients is all going to be answering those core questions around what is going to happen next, rather than understanding what happened in the past or how well we did at something. I think I'd also just add in a sneaky second, and I don't think it gets enough spotlight because it's not sexy enough, but the data quality. licensing, the governance around data. I mean, AMEC's doing a lot of work in this space. It is so important and is just going to become even more important. So, you can have all of the insights you like. If it's not based on good underlying data that's licensed in the correct way, then what's it worth? Nothing.
Yeah, it's absolutely so crucial, and it's not you can go forward so quickly over those really important points, Tim, but you won't get very far. You'll come back. Jonna. Let's move to Nye. Prediction for the next year. Obviously, I'm assuming that it's going to be AI focused, but specifically within that, where's your what are you looking to?
I think the next year we are actually going to enter probably another era of bad data. We're going to enter a lot of mislabeled technology, a lot of probably a new era of vanity metrics that aren't really reporting on anything. So that's
No.
my optimistic read. I think there's so many ways to describe things. We can see it with GEO. We're about to see it with describing things as agentic that aren't agentic in their truest sense. So there'll be all of those things. But I think the thing that I'm most fascinated about, sort of outside of the um, data side of what I do, I'm very interested to see how the role of the communicator changes. I think there is such an interesting space and opportunity for communicators to be like the heartbeat and the conscience of how organizations navigate what is likely to be like the most change we've ever experienced in a short space of time as humans, and to make sure that they step up to that plate and have great ideas and are well informed, and all of those things is probably the thing that is, outside of data, the most motivating, and I think will be a wild time, but very, very interesting.
Yeah, very engaging. And speaking of the communicators, Darryl, hard numbers. What's your prediction for the next year beyond GEO? What specifically is going to be your focus, or what do you predict to be an emerging industry focus?
What do you mean beyond geo? It's all I bloody talk about. No, all right. So, um, outcomes, baby. Right?
Yeah,
That's outcomes. I think it's all about that, and I think the more that communicators, in-house or agency, in agency, can link what they're doing to an outcome, the better.
yeah,
And I think it will help us transition as an industry from a timesheet based model, which is, the
mm,
stuff of polar bears on melting ice caps, to something which is more sustainable for the industry. I think it will help us better communicate our value, the impact of what we've done, obviously.
mm.
And I would have Jonna's dulcet tones ringing in my ears of like, do not confuse outputs with outcomes, and make sure
Yeah.
that what you do is genuinely an outcome. But yeah, it's all about the outcomes, baby, is
Yeah,
my
I love that. Thank you. It's a good place to end. For our panel members, thank you so much for sharing personal stories, your industry view, incredibly valuable for everyone. I want to finish by saying if you're in the industry and wanting to step up, you've heard it from these people, right? Step up, solve problems, be curious, be brave. That's the recipe for success here. You'll have some knocks along the way. It won't all be plain sailing, but if you step up to solve those messy problems, I think you're on a great path. I do want to say that if you're sitting on the fence about entering a project for the AMEC Awards this year, or you are really wanting to put yourself forward for a personal award, don't hesitate. Just jump in and do it. Grab your stakeholder opinions as Tim did. People will be able to highlight your wins a little bit more, less awkwardly than you will. You'll have a lot of support, I know within the industry in your organization. So just do it. Take the step up. You can see that these awards and this industry recognition really does validate and help careers. So don't hesitate. Just do it. Thank you for your time, everybody. Really enjoyed the chat. Thanks to our panel members. See you soon.
thank you.
You, Carly.
Thank you.